That's fine.
Because we on council have been asked by President Lamont and by our legal advisors not to comment on social media, this is our only opportunity to properly frame our positions on the reason that we've been elected. I'd like to call this walk 2 miles in your shoes. That's my take on the adage, walk a mile in my shoes. For the sake of brevity, I don't want to recite chapter and verse over the nearly 2 years of open meetings, planning, engineering, and village involvement and comments, all taken into consideration as we created our 2020 downtown streetscape beautification and safety plan, and all of the moving pieces that led to what will be an important special election on May 4th. Suffice to say, it's all on the record legally, and it was very micromanaged for all to see. Personally, I have true sympathy for the 3 litigants who created the stir and who feel personally violated as the village began creation of safety pathways and a plan to provide safe passage for all villagers. They have every right to access our beautiful, enviable village green space, our baseball fields, our tennis courts, library, retail business district, our beloved cider mill. And remember that we all own properties where our property line abuts to a rightful village right-of-way, and that we all have enjoyed that additional privacy of the right-of-way that provides, but it's not our property. It belongs to the village. It belongs to all of us. Now, the 3 litigants on Franklin Road, like you and I, knew this when we bought our properties. And those 3 homes on busy Franklin Road with a busy market across the street were chosen, and the buyers knew fully well what they were buying, for better or for worse. So any attempt to deny the progress and safe passage that our village is now proposing after a 2-year, carefully vetted and very open proposal, which by my count has the support of approximately 70% of our constituents based upon dozens of public meetings, comments, emails, letters, and other expressions, we on the council are supposed to be considering the voices of our constituents in the majority and what will benefit the majority. I and my colleagues were elected last November on this basis. 100% of our slate that supported this issue were elected to council. All of the diversion and the misinformation and denigration on social media in mailings is unfortunate, insulting, personal, and unreasonable. This council has no agenda. This council has no vendetta. We have tried to compromise with those who have litigated this matter by creating the least closest to the street, single-sized pathway that would allow safe passage and not force walkers with baby carriages and pets to wander onto busy Franklin Road to retain their personal privacy on the village right-of-way, which is village property. My suggestion, if you are conflicted or otherwise concerned about this very straightforward ballot question, is to walk 2 miles in your shoes. Take a walk up and down Franklin Road from 13 to 14 Mile on the east and the west during a typical, normally trafficked by distracted drivers day, going 35 miles an hour and more, and see if you're comfortable and see if you feel safe and confident. Because that's really what this is all about. It's safe access for all who want it without waiting for a tragedy. We're asking you if you want to be proactive rather than reactive, and we're asking for this connectivity only on Franklin Road using funding we have set aside legally and rightfully, and perhaps on 13 Mile, and perhaps on 12.5 Mile to 13, but only when we have open meetings and discussions on those 2 possible sites in the future. And once we have funding options to present, we're not advocating for sidewalks throughout the village, nowhere else in the village. And if we want to talk about 14 Mile, and if we want to talk about Inkster, we can talk about those, but first we have to amend our charter. Last thing I want to remind people is I have to link the 3 litigants who I do sympathize with to a previous battle you may not remember. Lisa McDonald, entrepreneur, owner of Fitness Driven, initially wanted to move her fitness business into the Snow House, the charming old historic tea room that sits next to their properties on Franklin Road. These same neighbors were vehemently against this idea, calling it, among other things, a massage parlor, and forcing Lisa to abandon her plans. Ultimately, one of the litigants actually bought the home to avoid any further consideration of a business moving in and then sold it. It now stands much renovated, no longer the historic tea room. And most importantly for the community, Lisa ended up taking over the entire Market Basket building, rendering that location as a beautiful upscale first-class fitness center. And we welcome her. But remember, there can be no market there now. And I'm not saying that the litigants had anything to do with the landlord-tenant matter that ended with the departure of the market basket. That was there for 5 decades. If anyone wanted a market now to return to Franklin, that space is gone. It was an easy retrofit, no longer. So we know the community has spoken loudly about the loss of our market. We're working hard to find another, but space is of an issue. So be careful what you wish for. Is the community being served by the 3 litigants' efforts to block progress? And is this an issue that, while may give us pause and sympathy, what is in the best interest of the entire community, our constituents? Take a walk for yourself and then decide for yourself. And I thank you for your consideration. There's been so much misinformation. We have to speak out and rectify this. And most importantly, we have to get back on track and trust, because there's been so much denigration of we on council. Remember, we're volunteers, paid $25 a year. We aren't operating in some shady back rooms. This is all public. And those of us that have been supportive of this have shown that we are supportive of this, and it's based upon our constituents, not our personal beliefs. Thanks.